Imagine for a moment a life where everything you desire flows to you naturally, effortlessly. A life where you are no longer bound by the memories of your past, but instead you are driven by a vision of the future. The hardest part about creating this life is breaking free from the old patterns, the same choices you made yesterday. The moment you make a different choice, you step into the unknown. And it's in this unknown where all possibilities exist. This is the place where true creation happens. When you and I become comfortable living in that unknown, we open ourselves up to infinite possibilities. The void of unpredictability, that space of uncertainty, is actually the quantum field where all manifestations originate. So when you start embracing this space, you begin to manifest the things you want in your life. For me personally, it's about being defined by a vision of the future rather than memories of the past. Most people's brains are organized to reflect everything they know from their past. Our brains are essentially records of the past, and if you feel the same way every single day, those emotions, which are the end products of past experiences, mean nothing new is happening in your life. You're anchored to the past. Thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel create your state of being. So, if you want to change your life, you need to change your state of being. The fundamental question is, can you believe in a future that you can't yet see or experience with your senses, but you've thought about so many times in your mind that your brain has changed to look like that future event has already occurred? The latest research in neuroscience and neuroplasticity tells us that we can change our brain to look like the event has already happened. And when we emotionally embrace a future reality that's a potential in the quantum field to such a degree that we fall in love with that future, our body begins to believe it's living in that future reality now. When you truly do this, you're not waiting for your success to feel empowered. You're not waiting for your wealth to feel abundant. You're not waiting for your new relationship to feel love. You're not waiting for the mystical moment to feel awe. If you're talking about manifesting your dreams, it requires two things: a clear intention and an elevated emotion. An intention is a vision, a possibility. The moment you ask yourself, what would it be like to be healthy? What would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to have a new home? You create an intention. Then you write down the details. Maybe you want to travel around the world, have great benefits, great insurance, work with creative people. The clearer you get on these details, the more your brain begins to work in new ways. Anytime you make your brain work differently, you're changing your mind. When you get inspired and start to imagine what it would be like to live in your desired future, something amazing happens in your body. Your body begins to feel the emotions associated with that future. It gets a small taste of what that future reality would feel like. This is because your brain releases chemicals that match those feelings, giving you a preview of what's to come. This emotional sampling is important because it helps to make your visualization feel real and achievable. The first step in this process is to become aware of your unconscious thoughts. These are the automatic thoughts that run through your mind without you even noticing. They are the thoughts that pop up when you're not paying attention. Many of these thoughts are habits, patterns that have developed over time. They reflect how you've been thinking and feeling for years. You also need to notice your automatic habits and behaviors. These are the things you do without thinking about them. They're your routines, the ways you react to situations, and your daily habits. These habits have been shaped by your past experiences and the emotions connected to them. It's crucial to become aware of the emotions that keep you anchored to the past. These are the feelings that you experience regularly, such as worry, doubt, or fear. They are the emotional responses to past events that you continue to carry with you. These emotions can hold you back and prevent you from moving forward. When you start to pay attention to these unconscious thoughts, habits, and emotions, you begin to see patterns. You become more conscious of these automatic reactions. This awareness is powerful because it allows you to recognize when you're slipping back into old ways of thinking and feeling. The more you become aware of these unconscious states, the less they can control you. As you become more familiar with your old self, you start to understand why you do the things you do. You see how your past experiences have shaped your current behavior. This understanding is the key to change. When you know what triggers your old habits and emotions, you can choose to respond differently. You can choose to think and act in ways that are more in line with your desired future. Then think about new ways of being, defined by a vision. Plan your behaviors, review them in your mind. If you keep doing this over and over again, nerve cells that fire together wire together. You become familiar with a new state of mind. At the same time, if you emotionally cultivate your inspiration, joy, and enthusiasm ahead of the experience. By repeating that over and over again, it becomes familiar to you. Change requires unlearning and relearning, breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing a new self, pruning synaptic connections and sprouting new ones. It doesn't matter how young or old you are, if you're in shape or out of shape, or if you've ever meditated before. It's a formula. And you don't need 40 years of dedication to meditation to get it. You just need to understand the formula. You'll figure it out sooner or later, and it'll get easier and more fun. Let me tell you a personal story. My rock bottom was when I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed, holding bottles of pills to knock myself out so I could sleep. In that moment, I decided to get well. That was the moment that defined me. Paying attention is being present. It's a skill like anything else. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. You know when someone is present with you because they're paying attention, and you know when they're not present because they're not paying attention. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. If all of your attention is in the present moment, you're conserving a lot of energy to create with. If I'm talking to you and you're thinking about lunch plans, your attention is in the future. Your energy drops and you won't comprehend what I'm saying. If you're thinking about what you should have said in a staff meeting 3 days ago, your mind is in the past. You're siphoning energy out of the present moment into the past. People constantly siphon their energy into a familiar past or predictable future because that's where their attention is. The stronger the emotions we feel to certain problems in our lives, the more we pay attention to them. We give our power away to those problems. That's creative energy that we should be using to create a new future. If you become aware that you're siphoning energy out of the present moment into the past, and you bring your body back to the present, that's a victory. These victories add up. You're telling your body that you're the mind, not the other way around. When you're in meditation and your body wants to get up and move, and you tell it to stay, you're training it to be present. That's a victory. By executing a will greater than the program, you're telling your body, I'll tell you when to get up. If you keep doing this, the body will surrender to a new mind. There's a liberation of energy. The body is freed from old habits and emotions, moving from particle to wave, from matter to energy. You're dialing down anger, dialing down vigilance. The body is being conditioned to a new mind. In the present moment, something amazing happens. You forget about yourself. You become pure awareness. You're in the unknown, the perfect place to create from. When people do this properly, they heal from anxiety because they're no longer obsessing about the future. They heal from depression because they're not stuck in a hopeless past. The body is now conditioned to a new mind. This realm of infinite space is eternal. We experience time as we move through space. Moving from one point of awareness to another, we experience time. So when you're fully present, time disappears. You're not thinking about the past or the future. You're simply being. And it's in this state of being that you become a magnet for what you visualize. Visualization is a powerful tool that you can use to create the life you want. When you visualize, you imagine a future where you have achieved your goals. This simple act of using your imagination is actually very powerful because it sends out a signal to the universe, or what we call the quantum field. Think of the quantum field as a vast space filled with endless possibilities. Everything you could ever want or need exists in this space as a potential. When you visualize your desired future clearly, you align your energy with the frequency of that reality. This means your thoughts and feelings are in sync with what you want to achieve. The key to effective visualization is having a clear intention and strong, positive emotions. Intention is the specific goal or outcome you want to achieve. For example, you might want to be healthier, have a new job, or find love. The clearer and more specific your intention, the better. When you know exactly what you want, you send a precise signal to the quantum field. Emotion plays a crucial role as well. Emotions are powerful because they are the energy that drives your thoughts. When you feel positive emotions like joy, gratitude, or love while you visualize your desired future, you strengthen your signal. The stronger your signal, the more powerful it is in the quantum field. It's like turning up the volume on a radio. The clearer and louder the broadcast, the easier it is for the signal to be received. When you combine a clear intention with elevated emotions, you are broadcasting a new electromagnetic signature into the quantum field. This signature is unique to you and your desires. Because all potentials exist in the quantum field, your strong, clear signal starts to attract the reality you want. It's like tuning into a specific radio station. When you find the right frequency, you hear the music clearly. Similarly, when your energy matches the frequency of your desired reality, you start to draw that reality into your life. Visualization works because it changes the way your brain and body function. When you visualize, your brain doesn't know the difference between your imagination and reality. It starts to believe that the future you are imagining is already happening. This changes your thoughts and feelings in the present moment, which in turn changes your actions. You start to act in ways that bring you closer to your goals. For example, if you visualize yourself as healthy and fit, your brain starts to believe that you are already healthy and fit. You might find yourself more motivated to exercise and eat well because your brain and body are aligned with that future reality. Similarly, if you visualize having a successful career, you may start to notice new opportunities and feel more confident in pursuing them. The process of visualization also helps you to become more aware of your thoughts and feelings. This awareness is important because it allows you to notice when you are thinking or feeling in ways that are not aligned with your desired future. When this happens, you can consciously choose to change your thoughts and feelings to match what you want to achieve. This ongoing process of aligning your thoughts and emotions with your goals helps you to stay focused and committed to creating the life you want. Think about a radio. When you tune it to a specific frequency, you receive the broadcast on that frequency. Your brain and body work the same way. When you tune into the frequency of your desired future, you receive the broadcast of that reality, but it requires coherence between your brain and heart. Your thoughts send out the signal, and your emotions draw the experience back to you. So, how do you achieve this coherence? Through meditation and mindfulness. When you meditate, you slow down your brainwaves. You move from beta brainwaves, which are high frequency and associated with stress and anxiety, to alpha and theta brainwaves, which are lower frequency and associated with relaxation and creativity. In these states, your brain becomes more coherent. Your heart rate slows down, and you enter a state of coherence between your brain and heart. In this state, you can visualize your desired future with clarity and emotion. You can feel the joy, love, and gratitude as if your desired reality is already here. And when you do this repeatedly, you're rewiring your brain and conditioning your body to a new mind. You're becoming a magnet for your desired reality. So, you have the ability to shape your reality with your thoughts and emotions. You are a magnet, always attracting what you visualize. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. And soon, you'll find that the life you desire is no longer a distant dream but a living reality. So then, is it possible then that that person, in the same brain circuitry, in the same emotions of the past, are viewing their life through the lens of the past, and they're not seeing things how they are? They're actually perceiving and seeing things how they are, and they're telling a story in their mind that's actually causing them to perceive life equal to that story. Are you with me still? So then you ask that person, so why are you this way? And they'd say, I'm so glad you asked, because I get to talk about my past. And as they talk about the incidents in their past, would you agree then that they're saying, that was the event that changed me, and I haven't actually been able to change since that event? That event has defined me as the person I am today, yes or no? Now, the research on memory says after a period of time, that story that they tell of their past, 50% of it isn't even the truth. So they're making stuff up. They are reliving a miserable life they never even had, just to reaffirm, to recreate the emotions, to excuse themselves from changing. So then, most people then, they may say with the 5% of their conscious mind, I want a new life, I want a new relationship, I want a new career, or I am healthy. But if 95% of who they are is subconsciously programmed into the past, then that thought of their health, that thought of their wealth is never going to make it to the body, because the body is programmed into the past. How many people understand? So then if you teach a person then how to be defined by a vision of the future, instead of the memories of the past, then they would have to really start thinking differently. Would you agree? They would have to start making different choices than the choices that they always make. Yes or no? They're going to have to start doing different things and breaking certain habits, and that's going to be uncomfortable. Yes or no? Because the body is going to say, why are we doing this? It's so much more fun suffering than going out for a walk into joy. I don't know if I believe in joy, I believe in suffering. The body goes back. And so that person would have to stop talking certain ways. They would have to start staying away from certain experiences with certain people. You know what I'm talking about, yes? They would have to examine their emotional state every single day. They'd have to stay conscious of their emotional state, because the moment they started feeling suffering, they're just disconnected from the energy of their future. They're back to the energy and the emotions of their past. So then, teaching people then how to be defined by a vision of the future every single day means they're going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be unfamiliar. There's going to be some uncertainty, and you may not be able to predict the next moment because you're no longer feeling like you. That's the moment you just left the known and you stepped into the unknown. Are you with me still? Now, if the body has been conditioned into the familiar past or the predictable future, and the body has become the mind of the past or the predictable future, would you agree? Then the body would say, what are you doing? And the body would say, listen, let's get you thinking like you've been thinking. 90% of the thoughts that we think on a daily basis are the same thoughts as the day before. So if you think that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, and 90% of your thoughts are the same known thoughts that you're always thinking, then your life should stay the same, because the same thoughts lead to the same choices. The same choices lead to the same behaviors. The same behaviors create the same experiences. The same experiences produce the same emotions. Those same emotions tend to influence the way we think, and our biology, our neurocircuitry, our neurochemistry, our hormones, and even our gene expression is equal to how we think, how we act, and how we feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality, and your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. If you want to create a new personal reality, a new life, you're going to have to change your personality. And you've got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. You've got to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors, even how you speak. And you have to look at the emotions that you live by every single day and decide, do these emotions belong in my future? So many people try to create a new life as the same person. In order to create a new personal reality, you've got to change your personality. So the principle in neuroscience says that nerve cells that fire together wire together. Thinking the same way, making the same choices, demonstrating the same actions, creating the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling called you. And you do that for 10 years in a row. Well, you're going to hardwire your brain into a very finite signature because you're firing and wiring that way. And that box in the brain, that becomes our personality, becomes our identity. And by the time we're 35 years old, for the most part, we've done something so many times that the body now knows how to do it as well as the mind. And that's a habit. So we have these unconscious programs of behaviors, automatic habits, redundant emotional reactions, hardwired beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that function just like a computer program. You press go and it runs automatically. When it comes time to change, thinking positively is going to do nothing because your body has been conditioned, for the most part, into a program in the past. Thought never makes it to the body because the body's on a different program. How do we begin to influence the body so that the thought actually produces some type of change? Think about it. If you think an unhappy thought, you're going to feel unhappy. If you think you're a failure, you're going to feel like a failure. Once you feel like a failure, you're going to think you're a failure. And people get caught in these loops of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking. And that redundancy is a conditioning process because all you need is an image or a picture or a thought and a feeling and a response, stimulus response. And so people tend to condition their brain and body into the past. When it comes time to change, you've got to leave that familiar territory. And any choice that you make, if you said, hey, I'm going to eat a better diet, I'm going to wake up early and work out, I'm going to do meditation, the moment you decide to do something differently, get ready because it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel unfamiliar. There's going to be some uncertainty. You're not going to be able to predict the next moment. That means you've left your known biology and you're stepping into the unknown. Theoretically, that sounds great. But if the body has been conditioned into a familiar feeling, it's in the known. The moment you take it outside the familiarity, it wants to go back to where it's comfortable. Repeating it over and over again is sustaining or maintaining those connections, and that's called memory. So they memorized what they were doing by physically practicing or personalizing what they learned. Make sense? Standard simple. It took the second group of people, and they said, listen, we want you to play 2 hours a day for 2 weeks. We're going to scan your brain before and after, but you know what we're going to do? We're not going to tell you how to play anything. You just come and do whatever you want, play whatever you want. So at the end of 2 weeks, guess what happened to them? Nothing. You know why? Because they couldn't remember what they had learned the day before, and they couldn't remember what they played the day before, and they had no structure. They got no instruction and no knowledge to be able to apply it to make some steady circuits. It took the third group of people, and they said, listen, don't even show up. Don't even create your day. Same thing. Nothing happens. Last group of people, they said, listen, we want you to come 2 hours a day for 2 weeks. We're going to show you these one-handed exercises. But instead of you physically playing the piano, we want you to mentally rehearse over and over again those exercises. We know you're going to get tired, so we'll nudge you and we'll keep you awake, but you practice for 2 hours a day and you keep repeating those. At the end of 2 weeks, they rescanned their brain, and guess what happened? Same area of the brain lit up as if they were actually playing the scales. Now, you know what that means? They grew new circuits in their brain just by thinking about it, just by thinking, just by rehearsing. Now, every time we learn something new, we make new circuits in the brain. If you learn anything new, learning is making a new connection in the brain, new neurological connection. Memory is maintaining or sustaining those connections, keeping them alive. And the only way that we maintain and sustain connections in the brain is by repetition. Repetition allows the neurons to develop a long-term relationship. So these people every single day made it the most important thing. They gave up their social engagements. They gave up television. They said, I'm going to rehearse. I'm going to mentally rehearse the greatest ideal of myself every single day. And as long as I keep doing it every day, what's going to happen to those circuits? They're going to light up and become the more sustainable circuits to act as a platform of who they will become in the future. During this process of rehearsal, while they were sitting down rehearsing who they were going to be, just like the piano players rehearsing over and over again, they had long moments where they lost track of time and space. In other words, they became so involved with what they were doing that when they opened their eyes or they lifted up their eye masks or when they turned the lights on in the room, it was 2 hours later and it only seemed like 5 minutes. They were so involved with what they were doing that they lost the feedback of the body, they lost the feedback from the environment, and they lost track of time. And the moment that that happens, geniuses, that's the moment we walk through the door to the quantum field. And that is the moment, by the way, according to neuroscience, that we repattern and rewire the brain. And by the way, guess what part of the brain is the most active when we do that? The frontal lobe, because isn't it true that we're making thought more real than anything else in that moment? And because the frontal lobe is the orchestra leda, it has its connections to the rest of the brain. And what it does is it quiets down the association centers, the thinking centers. It quiets down the motor centers. You don't want to move, you could still. It quiets down the emotional centers. And the only thing that's real is the thought. And when we capture that thought in the frontal lobe, when the frontal lobe captures it as we hold that thought there, what happens is the rest of the neurons in the brain will pattern and make circuits to capture that thought and reflect it as a footprint of whatever we're focusing on. And when we make new circuits in our brain, by the way, do you think that we'll perceive things that maybe already existed, but we never really saw? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that the person who lives practicing being a victim every day gets good at it? Turn that on automatically. Is it natural and second nature? And how will they perceive their world based on how they're wired? So if you made new circuits in your brain, do you think you may process or see things in your reality different because now you're wired to see them? Do you accept that? So if I put up a picture of a Monet on the screen up here, and I said to you, isn't that a beautiful picture of what Monet painted? You guys would all say, oh yeah, that's beautiful. And then I took the picture down and I said, did you guys know anything about Monet? Do you know that he spent 44 years of his life teaching himself how to see things differently? So many people have so many interesting definitions about what they think love is. Some people have it in terms of, I traveled to 17 countries and talked to hundreds of people with serious health issues. They were trying different treatments, both conventional and unconventional, but they weren't getting better or were even getting worse. Then suddenly I got better myself. I wanted to understand what caused this change, so I went back to school to study neuroscience. I discovered that the mind was a crucial part of healing, not diet or other factors. I found 4 common things among those who got better, and I wrote a book about it. I wanted to see if these results could be repeated, so I began teaching others to see if we could produce similar outcomes. This is science, finding something that works and making it repeatable. The first thing I noticed was that people who got better believed in an inner intelligence that gave them life. These were people with conditions like cancer, MS, and Parkinson's who experienced spontaneous recovery. They felt a connection to a life force that they believed they had lost. When they received their diagnosis, they realized they needed to reconnect with this essence. They built a relationship with it, just like you would with anyone else. It takes time, presence, and connection. The second thing was that these people understood their emotions, and stress hormones played a big role in their conditions. Stress happens when your brain and body are out of balance. We all have a mechanism to return to balance, but constant stress disrupts this process. For example, if you get cut off in traffic, you might react emotionally, but you usually get over it. However, if you are constantly stressed, your body stays in emergency mode, which can lead to disease. Stress can also be triggered by thoughts alone. When you think about your problems, your body reacts as if you are facing an immediate threat, giving you a rush of energy. People can become addicted to this rush and keep their problems alive to maintain the feeling. This addiction makes them stick to negative situations like a bad job or relationship because it feels familiar. When people realize this, they understand they need to change their focus and energy. They must move past their old emotions and habits. But changing is hard. When you face old triggers, like a person or situation that causes stress, it's easy to fall back into old patterns. If you react emotionally, you stay stuck in the past. Your thoughts and feelings become a loop, conditioning your body to live in the past constantly. Instead of visualization, which can seem too spiritual, science uses the term mental rehearsal. This involves two types: internal mental imaging, experiencing the scene as if you were there, and external mental imaging, observing yourself in the scene. Research shows that mental rehearsal, especially being fully immersed in the scene, leads to significant biological changes.